Welcome to another episode of Technology for Independence with Chris Cooley. Today he has a guest that's going to be talking about developmental disabilities and how their program helps other individuals. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Technology for Independence with Chris Cooley. Today, Chris is going to be talking with individuals from the Developmental Disabilities program in Scioto County. Chris, it's always a pleasure talking with you.
It's great to be on here. Thank you for having me. If you look at my background, you'll see a bunch of all kinds of color birds on a tree. And I used this as an example in my head earlier of all the beauty that's on that tree. And as I sit there and I thought about it, you can't tell that any of these birds that have a broken leg or be able to not be able to fly right, all you see is beauty. All you see that, these colors that is all over this tree, and allowing you to smile when you look at it and think about how beautiful that tree really is with all those birds on it. And it's just like people with multiple disabilities. We all come in all kinds of shapes and forms in life. Some of us may not be able to fly off that branch yet and fly high. We think about it is that we as people first, we want to show people our true colors. We want people to see the beauty beyond our disabilities. We want people to see us as people first, not our disabilities. We want them to see that color. We want them to see are able to be independent, be able to get out into the community, enjoy the community independently. And sometimes it's like, Scioto County Board of Development Disabilities, they come in like an eagle and swoop down and help us and guide us and push us up and up that tree until we're ready to fly and be more independent, and then be able to fly on and on. And it's like they kind of just swoop back down and help the other individual, because they want us to be able to live independent and be independent and be able to have the technology we need to live independent, be able to have the remote support that we need. Any help that we need, they're there to help us and support us. And I want to welcome Chad Phipps, the director of Scioto County Board of DD, to talk a little bit about himself and the programs that are out there here in Scioto County and possibly in Ohio that's able to help individuals with multiple disabilities. I'll turn it over to Chad.
Well, hello, Chris. Thank you for having me on today. Looking forward to this interaction and hope to get some good information in folks' hands who need it. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Chad Phipps. As Chris had mentioned, I'm the director of the SSA department here at Scioto County DD. SSA stands for Service and Support Administration. So we have intake, MUI investigations, and case management as the primary pieces of our department. So case management is that SSA service support administrator. That is someone that has a caseload of around 30 to 35 individuals that spends a lot of time assisting a person. And I think we're going to talk probably can get into this a little bit more later, but basically they do serve that case management role, intake, which I do hope to speak a little bit about later, how to get services. That's in my department, as well as MUI investigations, keeping people healthy and safe. So a little bit about how I came into this role. I do have experience in the field. I was lucky and blessed enough in college to run into someone who worked here for the DD board. And he also had a daughter who received services. So he was very knowledgeable and served as kind of a mentor to me. But he got me involved through while in college, serving in a role as a direct support professional. At the time, it was called a supported living provider, but now it's called a DSP, or direct support professional. And I would go out to individuals' houses, providing services in the community, differing hours. It worked great for me as a college student. That program's still available. It's just through the waiver, which we can talk about more. So if anyone hears this message and has questions about, well, how can I do something like that? I'm a college student. You can reach out to me and I'll be giving my contact information. We can walk you through that. But that's kind of how I got my start, and really fell in love with assisting people to live independently in the community. Came to the DD board after receiving my 4-year college degree there, went on to pursue a master's, but started in the SSA department as a case manager. Spent about a year there working with some of the folks that I worked with and had good knowledge of from working with them in the community in their homes. I actually were on my caseload. So that was a really special year, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the other side of authorizing and writing plans and monitoring services. I then moved into behavior supports, which is a role here at the county board where I touched from adults to kids. All ages were served with folks that had struggled with maladaptive behaviors, and helping the staff through that and their teams through that, and most importantly, the individuals through those periods to help to learn positive replacement behaviors, finding the purpose of the behavior itself and trying to find alternatives, right, or teach new skills. Finally, that after leaving that role, I stepped into management. I went to Star Adult Services, which was part of the county board at the time, and I served as the manager over their day hab supports there at the time. And then that led me into this role, just to try to keep it brief. And now, like I said, serving over 500 individuals in the SSA department with a case manager. So just really blessed and lucky to have been able to somewhat grow up in this field, learn a lot along the way, make a lot of friends, forge a lot of relationships, and gain a lot of knowledge.
When we say developmental disability, we are thinking of a small, select group that have a very difficult time cognitively. Is that true?
That could be true, depends upon the individual. I can tell you a little bit about developmental disabilities, and let's just start from defining them a little bit. So to be eligible for our program and what the state of Ohio considers a developmental disability, it's a disability that's expected to be lifelong and occurs prior to the age of 22 years old. So how, as far as the folks that we serve, I often tell new staff that start working here, so I'll use this same line, and I just try to illustrate this point, because as you said, Patrick, oftentimes people have a preconceived notion in their mind of the individuals who may receive services from us. So yes, certainly an individual can be born with a developmental disability, for just congenital disability, either during birth or the birthing process. So cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, those would be common. Cerebral palsy more often during the birthing process, Down syndrome being a genetic disorder. However, other factors can come into play after birth with an individual that may hinder their development and may impact them developmentally for the rest of their lives. A high fever at an early age, an infection of some sort, those can lead to cognitive disabilities as well. And one other thing that I wanted to point out really quickly is the developmental disability does not have to be, for you to receive services from the County Board of DD, doesn't have to be cognitive in nature. It could be a physical disability. So I started earlier to say, I say this line, I have folks that we serve that live in the community, drive to work, have a job, have a college degree, maybe married, etc. I have folks that on the other end of the spectrum that we serve that require 24/7 care and all assistance with all their active daily living, adult daily living skills. So help with bathing, help with getting their medicine taken, etc., feeding. And then we serve 800 individuals in between those two spectrums as far as out in our community. So the need and the abilities are very diverse, if that makes sense.
I think it does. Chris is a case in point.
Hmm.
Chris is very active in many different aspects. However, his major disabilities are hearing impairment and being able to not see. And so he would be considered a developmentally disabled individual.
And Chris is shaking his head, and he agrees. Yes, that would fall under the Ohio's definition of developmental disability.
And so when we as individuals going past Star Workshop or some of the programs that you do, we are not aware that it's just not confined to individuals with limited cognitive abilities, but it's primarily limited to being able to do things that you and I and Chris can do because we don't have those major disabilities.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said earlier, I think that you have to have a deficit in certain tasks of adult daily living. So that could be money management, it could be tasks that prevent you from living independently that you need assistance with, getting around your environment, your neighborhood, etc. That could be the two areas that you struggle in on what's called or need assistance in on what's called a high eligibility determination instrument. So as far as being eligible for services from any county board in the state of Ohio, all 88 basically have the same process, and that's one, you would have to produce a document from a physician or other medical psychologist, psychiatrist that would show that you had a developmental disability that occurred prior to the age of 22. This could be, if you're past the age of 22 now, this could be old school records, a psychologist report, possibly when entering school, things such of that nature. That would identify the testing used, and or if it's a medical diagnosis, that could just be a note from your medical doctor if it's a qualifying diagnosis. So that's the first piece of receiving services. The second piece is the administration of a test. And basically all this test is just asking you and the folks that are closest to you where you need help in your life, and just asking, there's multiple factors that are considered, everything from how do you do your laundry, how do you get your medicine to the doctor, do you need help at the doctor, understanding all different areas. So money management, managing the community, transportation, getting around, mobility, things such as that are part of this test. And if you have deficits or need assistance in two or more of those areas, along with having the diagnosis that's verified by the doctor, that is how you unlock services of the county board.
I know that we have to be very careful with confidential information, but it's
Yes.
nice that Chris is here because we can see if he would be willing to volunteer some information.
With Scioto County Board of DD, just like Chad said, when I first contacted them, they came to me, we had a meeting and sat down and asked those questions. Where do I want, where do I need help with? Or, what do I need to better assist me in my daily living, in my daily time, getting around in the community. And so from there, they did an ISP, and an ISP is put together to where that we can, work together and work on those goals. So I can live independent. I can go out in my community independently, and just be like anyone else that are out there in that community, and be able to, if I, sometimes I will have my ups and downs. So I could turn to Scioto County Board of DD and say, hey, I need some extra help. I need some guidance. They're there to help and guide me through the bump that I'm going through, to help me to be able to be better in my community and be able to live where I am now independently, and be able to say that, no matter what, I can do it. So they were there to help me with that. A big, great supporter of anything that I, set my dreams to, my goals to. They can help, they push me to the limit to help me achieve my dreams and my goals in life. And I think, by having their help and them behind me as a support, has helped me be able to just do that.
Are there other areas that, besides working with Chris, that your program provides, but Chris doesn't need?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I talked a little bit earlier. Let me talk a little bit about case management for just 1 second and kind
Sure.
of their SSA role itself. So those folks, as I said earlier, they have about 30 to 35 individuals on their caseload. And kind of what Chris said, those are the people that are coming in and helping to support the individuals from our department the most. Because again, they're looking to help partner with the individual to assess what their needs are. That's the big first step, right? What are the biggest needs, priorities, goals, wishes, dreams? Not only just wants, but also really what are the needs first, right? Where are the needs at? The second piece is being knowledgeable about the resources and linking them to community resources and or internal resources. So knowing once you know what the need is, now you got to find a way to fill that need, whatever it may be, whether it's OT, PT services, residential supports in the house, some respite for the parents, whatever it may be. But then finding that next step of linking those resources together to bring us to the third step, which is authorizing the services. And Chris mentioned that term ISP, that stands for Individual Service Plan. How I try to explain this to folks that aren't familiar with our system, most folks are familiar with an IEP, which is an individual education plan. And that's, for those students that need some additional supports and helps in the high school or school environment so that they can succeed. And what those supports are outlined in that plan. But it's very specific to education. So while the rules that govern them are different, the purpose is the same. It's to find the supports that are needed to help the person live a successful life, except for broaden it beyond education to all tasks of daily living, from how they get to the doctor, what their job is, what supports they need in the job. Anything that is part of that individual's life where they're needing supports, even if it may be natural supports, if they want that listed out and we know that, we want to have a contract that that person is going to help this person, if they're a paid support, particularly it comes through that ISP. So individual service plan. And then the last step and fourth step I think is really important for our SSAs is monitoring the effectiveness, how things are going, monitoring, talking with the individual, holding those team meetings, checking in with the person. So that's just one piece. That's the SSA role. Two, behavior supports. You heard me talk a little bit about that. Positive supports, really helping folks that struggle with those maladaptive behaviors. You may have an individual that's struggling to be served in their school environment or in the home environment with the family. We do provide those supports. We also help contract out with positive supports and consultations. So we have some resources when it comes to behavioral therapies with our individuals. Trying to be brief, so if you have more questions about that or if I'm not making that clear, just point it out to me. Thirdly, MUI, I talked about that. That's the system we really interface with our police department, our local authorities, and adult protective and children protective services, just to make sure that our individuals' rights and safety are protected, their health and welfare. So it's hard to live an optimal life if you have threats to your health and safety, right? So we take that with the utmost importance. We network and partner. We conduct our own investigations to help prevent people from being taken advantage of. I think the stat is, and Chris, you correct me if I'm wrong, that individuals about 4.5 times in our system more likely to be taken advantage of than those in the regular community. So,
That's right.
we've worked a lot with our local community partners to try to help protect our individuals and make sure that bad characters aren't coming into their life and taking advantage. EI supports, so early intervention. For those kids, this is the one area of our program from 0 to 3 where you don't have to have a developmental disability. Why is that important? And maybe this is where I should have started in talking about services, but selfishly, I started inside my own department. But this is the beginning for folks that are identified through the Help Me Grow program or other programs that referral will be made for what's called an early intervention specialist, EI specialist. And those persons, developmental specialists, work towards getting that person, that child, back on track with their goals, their developmental milestones. And I'm proud to say that they have quite a deal of success. They partner with the Play Project out of, I believe it's University of Cincinnati. That is primarily a program that was designed for autism, but works with other individual diagnoses other than autism as well. So that is being put in place by our EI program, and they're seeing a lot of success. I said earlier that you don't need to have a lifelong permanent developmental disability. Actually, the hope is to be accepted into that program. The hope is that we can prevent and catch that child up so that they can go on and be served in the least restrictive setting possible, typical schooling, etc. We do operate a school at the 5-year-old, 6-year-old age. They start there. Up to the age of 21, they can attend through extended schooling up through that age due to disability acts, etc., will allow a child on an IEP to attend school through the age of 21. So we have about 60 students right now at the school. It is nice in our school that we have our therapists on staff and in the building daily. We have an adaptive PE specialist, speech, language, physical, and occupational therapy. We also partner well, as I said earlier, with behavior supports in that area. So if a child that has multiple disabilities and may not be doing well in the homeschool environment or in their homeschool district, we often will receive referrals, and we've seen kids flourish in this system. We also obviously want them to be served in the least restrictive environment they can be, but there are times where having a nurse here that's certified tube feedings, etc., is necessary. Having a higher level of support is necessary for these kiddos. And again, we talked a little bit about adults, and I'll just keep it brief to say, it really depends upon the individual's need. We have work programs, we have employment, we work with opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities to obtain community jobs, community placements for our individuals, but also there are situations and settings where they can receive adult day services with a higher ratio of supervision. So that happens at places like Star Workshop that you mentioned earlier, Patrick. And there are others in our county as well. There is a choice of services.
I would imagine that there are a number of other agencies that you work with, like, for instance, Children's Services.
Yes.
In my beginning career, I worked with the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation. I'm not sure if that program is still available.
It is. That's what I was referring to. Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities is kind of the new name of that. We work closely with Scott and some of the folks down there at what formerly was BVR in obtaining employment for our starting as early, catching them early and giving them work experiences, even as young as 13 years old, just to get some summer work experience or experiences so that they're ready and kind of know what they want to look for when they get to that 16, 18, 19-year-old range. But yeah, even our adults, we make those referrals. We've had quite a bit of success in the community employment arena, and that's not due to Oliver, and that's not our specialty area, but we know whose it is, and we can link you with them and support you with additional supports on top of what they're able to offer. So yeah, certainly hitting the nail on the head there, Patrick.
What are a couple things that you wish people knew about your program that you are amazed that we don't know?
Sure. A couple things. One, the broadness of the program that we serve from 0 to 3. I talked about EI. I think that's very important to highlight because I think a lot of times young parents that hopefully they're getting the message, and we work hard with pediatricians, all of our local pediatrician groups, our ER, SOMC social workers, thanks to Teresa and her group there, we've interfaced with them and have quite a lot of dealings with. But want to make sure they know that that service is available. Two, some things that we've talked about employment, which there's an employment first initiative, and I think we've done pretty well here in Scioto County. But Chris, you'd probably be happy to hear me say this. Remote supports, technology first. I think that's an area where, we have a lot of room to grow. We have several individuals that are taking advantage of them. I've got one that may be willing to share their experience here on the call. But I think that it unlocks a whole new world, and it helps folks. Let's say you don't need someone in the house 6 hours, 4 hours a day, but you do need someone maybe to help you identify medication or make sure that that at cooking time that you get some prompts. Those things now, today's day and age, with the technology that's out there, can be handled remotely and or through technological means. So it allows the person to have privacy in their own home, but to get the supports that they need. So, really getting that message out there for folks to try it. We're getting ready to kind of set up a model home. Our hope is by the end of summer, start of back of next school year, we'll have through Choice Housing, our residential, they kind of help us find houses for individuals to live in, is the easiest way to say that, but a house that they've obtained that's a duplex, we hope to have one side spec'd out so that people can try out the technological supports and remote supports that are available and keep it up to date. We've had in our area a mobile tech van come down for one-day events, but this would put something here locally in our area that anyone could tour pretty much any time to get that hands-on feel for what it's like to have those supports in your house. And I think that'll really help turn the corner. Thanks for letting me share that, Patrick.
Chris, fantastic guest that you brought on. Any final words?
I would just ask Chad. So if folks that are listening to this that may have questions, how would they be able to contact you or whoever they may need to contact to get that information?
Sure. Let me give you my phone number. It's 740-353-4677. I have an email address of CPhipps, that's CPhipps at Scioto, SCIOTODD.org. I can be reached at. And we also have a website, SciotoCountyDD.org, I believe it is. And you can reach us through email that way as well to our general inbox.
And we'll have that information not only on the screen, but in the description. Chris, I want to thank you for bringing on Chad. And Chad, I want to thank you for giving this great information. Again, this is Independence for Technology with Chris Cooley. Thank you and see you next time.